Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. Flower Fairy here. Thank you all so much for your likes, shares, and subscribes. I really do appreciate them. And just a quick reminder that today's reading is a general reading, so please only take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. So in today's pick a card reading, we're going to be uncovering your past life. So we're going to be looking at who you were in this past life and what you were like as a person. So to do this reading, I've laid out 3 separate piles of cards here. Pile number 1, you're going to be this blue Lapis Lazuli crystal point here. Beautiful crystal. Pile 2, you're going to be this yellow Aventurine crystal point. That's what that one looks like. And pile 3, you're going to be this green moss agate crystal point here. So take a minute and focus on the piles and decide which one you're most drawn to. And then you can scroll down to the description box below where I have timestamps listed for each pile. You can then click on your timestamp and you'll be directly forwarded to your reading. So let's get started. Hi, pile number 1. So you guys chose this blue Lapis Lazuli crystal here. And let's take a look at your oracle cards here. So you received this card here. And with this card, I'm feeling that some of you or a few of you may have been a grandparent in your past life. And I'm seeing this during the time frame of the Crusades and Inquisition. And it says here that your location was Oceania. And it's also saying here that one of the lessons you learned in this past life was about power. So there was some kind of lesson involving power here. Maybe you were in a position of power, or maybe you were learning a lesson about power. Maybe you were abusing your power, or maybe you weren't using your power wisely, or maybe you were coming into learning about power and how to use it wisely. But there was some kind of lesson about power here. It says that your death was through hypothermia. So there was some kind of death involving hypothermia. It says that your trauma was loss of status and reputation. So I'm feeling that had to do with this power issue here. Maybe you guys were in a position of power during this time, and like I said before, you may have used your power incorrectly or unwisely, and that led to this loss of status or reputation. And it says here that your faith was mystical. So you had some type of faith that was different, that was unusual. I feel like it wasn't traditional. And I feel like you guys believed in mysticism. You know, you believed in the gods, and you believed in, the spirit world, and you had this sort of mystical faith here. Maybe some of you were involved with, could be even witchcraft or Druidism. But I'm just getting this strong mystical faith here. And it says your love was involved in an affair. So maybe you had an affair with somebody. I don't know if this was someone who was married, or maybe, maybe you were married, or, however that resonates, but your love life involved some type of affair here. So very interesting. And on the back of this card, we have this card here, and it says intellectual, and it says philosopher, scientist, mathematician, and inventor. So I feel like, for some of you, or a few of you out there, you may also have been an intellectual. So you may have, or been some type of, like this card says, philosopher or scientist. But there's this idea of knowledge here, and of you being very smart in this past life, being very intellectual, and in some type of power, like because scientists have power, inventors have power, philosophers have power. So whatever you were doing, it was powerful, and it was successful, and I think you had a lot of status in whatever this is that you were doing. So very interesting card there. And then you guys also received another one of these cards. So I'm going to read this one for you as well. So this one says, your identity may have been a devotee or follower. And this would be during the High Middle Ages. And it says your location was Eastern Europe. So some of you, or a few of you, may have been this follower in your past life. And it says here that your lesson was about greed. So I'm feeling like in this past life, for the people that this resonates with, you may have been learning a lesson about greed. So you may have been a greedy person in this past life, or wanting more than you had. Maybe, being jealous of others' wealth, or maybe trying to get wealth in putting wealth over other things in your life. So you were learning this lesson about greed. And it says here that your death may have been a murder. So you may have been murdered for some reason. Maybe it has to do with this greed. Not sure here, but it also says your trauma was poverty. So I feel like in this past life, the people that this applies to may have been lacking resources, lacking money, and you were looking for this money. You were trying to gain this money, and that might be why you had this greed here, because you were poor and you were trying to gain resources and gain money, and it actually made you greedy for money. So you were, that makes sense here, why there was this lesson about greed here. And it says here that your faith was ethical religion. So I'm not sure what type of faith that is, but something, I think, non-traditional here. And then it says here that your love was abandonment. So I feel like some of you may have felt abandoned in this past life in terms of love. You may have had parents that abandoned you, or you may have felt like you couldn't find love in this lifetime, someone to spend your life with, so you felt abandoned. It's going to be different for everybody here, but there was some abandonment here involved in your love life. And then on the back of the card, you have instruction here, and it says teacher, mentor, academic, master. So for a few of you, or some of you, you may have, this past life may have involved some type of instruction where you were either a teacher or a guide or a mentor for people. I think you had a lot of knowledge. I think you were very intelligent. And I think people came to you for this knowledge. And I think it made you, you know, a powerful person, and made you successful, you know, as well. So just take what resonates here, please. But that is what is coming up there. And then you have this card here, and it says withdraw. Yeah, so I feel like in this past life, some of you or a lot of you really withdrew into yourself. And I feel like this goes along with this mystical faith here, because I feel like you guys spent a lot of time in introspection, really going within and doing inner work. And I think your faith or your religion involved this withdrawing and this going into your cocoon, so to speak, to really get in touch with your mind and your higher voice. And it allowed you to gain a higher perspective on life. And so I really see you guys sort of withdrawing a lot in this past life. And it also makes sense with this abandonment here, because I feel like, you know, you guys felt sort of abandoned for some of you here. And so you withdrew into yourself to deal with this abandonment and this, you know, possible loneliness here. So very interesting card there. And then you have the wise one here, and it says, grow within your current situation. Yeah, so like we talked about before, I feel like you guys were very wise in this past life. And I feel like people came to you for advice or knowledge. We saw that here with this mentor and teacher card, and also with this intellectual card. You know, I feel like you guys were very, very intelligent and very wise. And I feel like, you know, you almost have this like shaman or, you know, wise one persona in this past life. And I think you had a lot of connection to the spirit world with this owl here and this raven. You received messages from the spirit world. And I think this happened when you were withdrawing, you know, when you were going within, you were able to connect to spirit and receive messages. And I feel like you helped people through these messages. So very interesting energy there. And then you have the path here. So yeah, I feel like you guys were on this path here in your past life. I feel like you guys knew exactly what you were meant to do in this lifetime, whether that involved helping other people as this with the shaman type energy, or, you know, this teacher energy. You know, it involved your faith, you know, this mystical sort of non-traditional faith that you had, but you knew exactly what your path was here, and you knew what you needed to do to achieve your goals and to really be successful. So I think you guys really had a strong path here in this past life. So that is coming through as well. And then you have Merlin here, and it says magic, alchemy, equilibrium, perception. Yeah, so like I said before, you guys were very wise and you were into this mystical faith. And so I feel like for a few of you, or some of you, you actually practiced magic in this past life. You know, you did spells, and you practiced alchemy, and, you know, you practiced magic. And this card actually goes with this card here too, because, you know, we see scientist and inventor here. So for some of you, you may have been working with chemicals, you know, as a scientist, and you were actually alchemizing things, or you were just using your magic. But there, you know, there's a lot of magical energy here with this group. So I feel like you guys in this past life, you were very magical. So beautiful energy there. And then you have Armadillo here, and it says groundedness. So I feel like in this past life, you guys were very grounded. I feel like you did a lot of grounding work, and I think this withdrawing sort of helped you in that grounding. I think you guys went into solitude at certain times, and it really helped you ground your energies. And it really helped you be this strong rock here for not only yourself, but for other people as well. So there was definitely this strong sense of grounding here in this past life. So that is coming through. And then you have hollow bone, and it says teachability. Wow. Yeah, so this is what we were talking about before. I feel like for a few of you, or for some of you, you guys were teachers in this past life. You were teaching people lessons. And I feel like these lessons were spiritual lessons. Because with these feathers here, you know, I'm seeing that you communicated with spirit regularly, and you received messages from the angels here and from your guides. And I think you were teaching other people these lessons or these messages that you were getting from spirit. So you were this guide or mentor to people, and they really respected you. They really looked up to you here, and they went to you for this advice. So beautiful energy there as well. So now I'm just going to take a look at your tarot cards here to get some more information for you. So you have the Knight of Wands card here. And as you know, the Knight of Wands is a very strong character, and he's very bold and very action oriented. So I feel like you guys really went after what you wanted in this past life. I feel like, you know, if there was a goal that you had or something that you wanted, you really went straight for it, and you really pursued it. But, you know, sometimes the Knight of Wands can also be impulsive or rash in their decisions. And I think that's maybe where this greed came in. You know, for some of you that this follower card applies to, you know, we talked about that lesson about greed here and poverty. So I feel like, you know, this Knight of Wands energy can also be sort of impulsive or greedy in going after what he wants. And so I really feel like this card sort of captures your energy here in this past life, in that, you know, you didn't let anything stop you. You went after what you wanted, even if that meant, you know, maybe being greedy or taking things from others, or, you know, being overzealous about money, you know, however it resonates for you. But there was just this strong, bold, action-oriented energy that you had in this past life here. So that is coming through. And then you have the Five of Swords here. And the Five of Swords is an energy of competition and of feeling sort of defeated sometimes about things. And so, you know, I think you were definitely, you know, for some of you, you may have felt like you were in competition with others in this past life. And you may have felt somewhat defeated by others. You know, you may have felt like they had more skills than you, or they had more money than you, or they were more successful than you. You know, there's sort of this energy here where you're standing your ground, but you're feeling defeated by something or someone. So that energy is coming through as well. And then you have the Ace of Pentacles card here. So yeah, I feel like you guys, for some of you or for many of you, like I said before, you were successful in this past life, and you did have the money and the resources that you needed. Now, for some of you, like I said before, there was poverty and there was greed. But for, the rest of you, there was success here and there was financial wealth and resources. So it's just going to depend on, which character, which identity you resonate with here. But, for some of you or for a few of you, there was success here. There was wealth. So that is coming through. And then finally, you have the King of Cups card here. So with this card, I feel like you guys in this past life were definitely in a balanced energy. We spoke about that before with this groundedness card here, but I feel like you guys were very balanced, and I feel like you were also very loving. I feel like you really gave love to the people in your life that mattered to you. I feel like they respected you. I feel like they knew that you were a loving, caring person, and they felt very loved by you. And they also respected you because you had boundaries. You set your limits. You didn't just let people walk all over you. You really showed people how you wanted to be treated and how you wanted to be loved. And so that gave you this amount of respect, and people really valued you and respected you. So that is coming through here as well. So I feel like that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in the next reading. Bye. Hi, pile number 2. So you guys chose the yellow Aventurine crystal here. And let's start by looking at your oracle cards here. So you received this card here. And what I'm feeling with this card is that for a few of you, or for some of you here, in this past life, you may have been a young male during the time of the age of Atlantis. And I'm seeing here that your location may have been an island. So some type of island location is where you were, where you grew up. And I'm seeing here that one of the lessons you learned in this past life was about abuse of technology. So maybe you guys were using technology in some sort of unethical or unwise way. And, you were learning a lesson about that. There was a lesson to be learned about technology and about the limits that you had within that field or within that department. And I'm seeing here also that your trauma involved persecution or torture. So maybe some of you guys were actually persecuted or tortured because of this abusive technology that you were engaged in. Maybe some of you got caught for doing something that you weren't supposed to be doing in terms of technology. There was some type of trauma here with involving this lesson. And it says here that your death was an accident. So, some of you may have died in an accident. Maybe it was a result of this torture that you received. Maybe you accidentally died because of this torture, or maybe, it was some type of other accident, but that is coming through here as well. And it says that your faith was polytheistic. So, I feel like maybe it was a mix of religions, or, something not traditional here, is what I'm getting. And then it says your love was celibate or asexual. So I feel like for some of you, you guys were celibate. You weren't involved in a relationship. You weren't in a partnership with either a male or a female. You were celibate or asexual. So very interesting. And then on the back of the card, we have this here, and it says beauty. And it says town beauty, femme fatale, struggles with appearance. So I'm feeling like, for a few of you, or for some of you, you may resonate with this, as being this beautiful female here in this past life. And, being this person that everybody wanted to be near, everybody wanted to be with. You had a very strong, I think, sexual attraction or magnetic physical attraction. And you were sort of the town beauty here. So, a few of you, or some of you, may resonate with that as well. So that is what's coming through there. And then you have this card here. It says boundaries. So I feel like in this past lifetime, pile 2, you guys were very good at setting boundaries. You were very good at letting people know what your boundaries were. Now that's for some of you, but for some of you, I feel like you were actually learning a lesson about boundaries. And it kind of makes sense with this lesson that you were learning about abusive technology, because I feel like this lesson that you were learning that involved that abusive technology may have been teaching you your boundaries in this field, in this job that you had. And it may have taught you about how you can't step over certain boundaries within technology. Maybe you needed to respect the boundaries that you were given. And so you were learning this lesson about respecting boundaries within your career or field here, or within your life. So very interesting energy there. And then you have the key here. So I feel like with this card here and this technology here, I feel like you guys were sort of searching for the key to solve something here in terms of maybe this job that you had involving technology. I feel like you were searching or looking for this key or this solution to a problem. And I think maybe that's where this abusive technology came in, because you were so intent on finding a solution or finding, this breakthrough in technology that you actually abused your powers. You abused your boundaries. You didn't respect the boundaries because you were so intent on finding this key or this solution. And that's where, this abusive technology came in. And that's why you were maybe persecuted or tortured for that. So that is coming through here as well. And then you have this trader card here, and it says exchange energy to create abundance. So I feel like for a few of you, or some of you, you had this trader energy here in this past life. Maybe some of you were traders, where you traded goods or services for money. And that was in order to create abundance for yourself, create wealth for yourself. But there's this idea of trading here for some of you, where, you engaged in trade in this past lifetime. So very interesting energy there. And then you have the horseman here, and it says herald of change. And this is sort of the energy I was picking up before pile 2. I feel like you guys were this change maker here. I feel like you guys were searching for the key here, this solution, this breakthrough in whatever field you were in. You know, for some of you, it was this technology field. For some of you, it may have been this trading field. But, you know, whatever you were involved in, I feel like you were this herald of change. You wanted to bring change into the world. And I feel like that's why you were persecuted or you were tortured, because, you know, you sort of disobeyed the boundaries and you sort of just went for what you wanted. You know, you felt this sense of freedom and this sense of abandon where you were like, I don't care what society says. I don't care what people say. I'm going to do this and I'm going to find this breakthrough. I'm going to, you know, find this solution to this problem or this issue. And you didn't care about what anyone else thought or said, you know, and so I feel like you were like this herald of change here is what I'm getting. So that is coming through. And then you have this card here, it's Sky Dancers, and it says surrender. Yeah, so I feel like you guys were learning this lesson about surrender here in this past life. I feel like you guys were surrendering to what spirit was telling you and to what your higher voice was telling you. And so you were just going after this solution or this key, and you were sort of surrendering to your higher power or your higher self here. But again, you were persecuted for that because of, you know, you not respecting the boundaries or the limits that you had within this job or career. So very interesting there. And then you have the white spring here, and it says energy, gratitude, protection, healing. Yeah, so I feel like with this card, pile 2, that you guys had to do a lot of healing in this past lifetime because of this persecution that you went through. I feel like, you know, you had to look for protection from the spirit world. And, you know, you had to go through this healing process because you were persecuted or denied, you know, you were persecuted for believing what you believed and for doing what you did. And so there was an amount of healing that you had to do as a result of that persecution or that torture even. So I'm really getting this idea that you were sort of healing in this past lifetime, and you were searching for protection from your higher power and from spirit here is really what I'm getting. So that is coming through here. And then finally you have the rhinoceros card, and it says moderation. Yeah, so again, I feel like you guys were learning this lesson about moderation here in this past lifetime. We saw it before with this boundaries card. I feel like you guys were very gung-ho in this past life, and you sort of just did things with abandon, and you didn't care about boundaries and about what people said or thought. And so you were learning this lesson about being moderate in terms of your energy and really, you know, living within your limits and living within the boundaries of society and living within society's rules and laws. So you were learning about this, you know, being moderate in your energy and being moderate in your actions here. Because there was sort of this fire, I think, that you guys had within you to do what you felt was right and to pursue what you wanted. But again, there was consequences for that because you were defying maybe the laws or the rules at that time. So, you know, there's just this idea of moderation here, and you learning a lesson about moderation. So very interesting energy there. So now I'm going to take a look at your tarot cards here to get some more information for you. So you have the Queen of Pentacles and it came up in reverse. So for some of you, I'm seeing that you may have had some issues or problems with money here, resources. You may have felt like you didn't have enough money or resources, or you abused your power here. And we spoke about that before with this abusive technology, because the Queen of Pentacles in reverse can be an energy of abusing one's power. So taking things too far and not respecting boundaries, not respecting rules. So I really feel like for some of you, or for a lot of you, there was this abuse of power here in this past lifetime. And it may have led to some issues for you guys, is what I'm getting here. And then you have the 10 of Swords card here. Yeah, so I also see, you know, with this card here, it makes a lot of sense because we spoke about how you may have been persecuted or tortured here in this past life. And so I feel like, you know, there was this 10 of Swords energy around you here, this energy of being hurt, of being traumatized, of being, you know, in pain or sad or disappointed, or, you know, however it resonates for you. But there's just this sort of downtrodden energy here, and, you know, you feeling persecuted, you feeling you know, almost abused here is really, you know, the energy. Like you've been stabbed in the back, you know, with 10 swords. So, you know, for a few of you, or for some of you, that is sort of the energy, you know, that's coming through here with this card. And then you have the Devil card here. So yeah, I feel like in this past life, you know, for some of you, you felt very chained to something here. And I think it was this, you know, career or job that you had. I feel like you felt very chained to it, and you really felt like you wanted to find the key to it. You wanted to find the solution, but it led you to this abuse of power, and it led you to this greed, and it led you to this persecution. You know, because there was this sort of obsessive energy that you had where you were like, I need to find the solution. I need to get, you know, the key to this problem. I need to figure it out. So you felt sort of bound to that, and you felt sort of chained to that idea or that solution. And, you know, so it led to this persecution. It led to this torture here. So that is coming through. And then finally, you have the Two of Swords card. And the Two of Swords card is all about having to make a decision, you know, and being sort of in choosing a road, you know, being in this like stalemate energy where you don't know which way to turn, you don't know which way to go. And so I feel like for a few of you, or for some of you, you felt this way in this past life. I think you felt very determined to find the solution, but you knew that whatever you were doing to find the solution was going to get some backlash. You know, it was going to be not well perceived or not well received, and that you were going to receive some sort of punishment or persecution for it. So you weren't really sure which way to go. You know, should I do this or should I not? You know, am I going to get in trouble or am I not? You know, there was just sort of this stalemate energy here, and this need to decide sort of what was the right path for you and what was the wrong path for you. So that energy is coming through here as well. So I feel like that is all I have for you guys today, pile 2. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up down below. And please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, so that you'll always be notified when I upload a new video. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hi, pile number 3. So you guys chose the green moss agate crystal. And let's start by looking at your oracle cards here. So you received, this card here. And with this card, I'm seeing that for some of you, or many of you, your identity in this past life may have been as a grandchild. So you may have been a grandchild to somebody. And I'm seeing this during the time frame of the pre-Columbian Americas. And it says here that your location was Asia. So you may have actually been Asian in your ethnicity or background. And it also says here that your lesson was prophecy and gifts. So I feel like in this past life, you guys were very gifted spiritually. I feel like you had this ability to see things that other people could not see, and to predict things that other people didn't see or didn't know were coming. And it says here that your trauma was guilty conscience. So I feel like for some of you, or for many of you, you felt very guilty about this gift that you had, because I feel like it may not have been very well received during this time. People maybe didn't understand your gift. They didn't accept your gift. And so I think you felt very guilty about having this gift. And I feel like, for some of you, this could also resonate in the sense that, maybe you had to tell people negative things that were going to happen to them, or that were coming up for them. And so you just felt this sense of like guilt or shame about having to tell people these things, that were maybe not positive messages or positive things. And, I'm also getting here that your death was starvation or dehydration. So, maybe some of you starved to death, or you died from dehydration. But, that's coming through here as well. And it says your faith was forced conversion, and in love, you were either deceived or betrayed. So for some of you, you went through some sort of betrayal in your love life, in this past life. Someone either left you or betrayed you, or maybe cheated on you, deceived you in some way. And I think it caused a lot of pain. I think it caused a lot of sadness for you. So the next card you have here is Shaolin Master, and it says, be graceful in movement and action. So I feel like this card really goes well with this card here, because, we talked about your past life maybe being in Asia here, and you being Asian, of Asian persuasion. And we see this Asian man here on this card, and it says, be graceful in movement and action. So I feel like in this past life, many of you were a very graceful person, a very graceful master here. I feel like you took a lot of time when taking actions. You really thought about them, and you really deliberated about things, and you took actions very cautiously, very wisely. You didn't just jump into things. You really thought about things, and you were sort of this master. And when I see this card, I think of like Tai Chi or karate or something like that. So maybe even you were like this Tai Chi master or karate master, or some type of martial arts master here as well, because you were very graceful in your movements and your actions. So that is coming through here as well. And then you have defiance here. So yeah, I feel like, for some of you, or for many of you in this past life, you did have this sense of defiance here. I think you defied sort of the norms with this gift of prophecy or vision that you had. And I think that, you were also defiant, I think, in terms of your faith, because I feel like, with this forced conversion, I feel like you were forced to be part of a certain religion or a certain faith. You were sort of forced into that. And I feel like you felt very bitter about that, or very sort of, upset about that, of being forced to be within a certain religion or to follow a certain faith. And so there was this sense of defiance that you had, where you were like, no, I don't want to be part of this faith. I believe in this. I want to follow this faith or this religion. But I feel like you were sort of forced into a certain religion or belief system here, is what I'm getting. And then you have this card here. It says, take risk. So yeah, I feel like for some of you, or for a lot of you in this past life, you were learning about taking risks. You were learning about really letting your gifts and your abilities shine, and really, not feeling guilty about them, because I think for some of you, you felt this sense of guilt about these gifts that you had in terms of prophecy. And so you were learning lessons about taking risks, and about, even with this religion that you were forced into, I feel like for some of you, you wanted to take this risk to really go outside the norm, to really, do what you wanted to do in terms of faith or religion. So there was this idea and lesson about taking risks here that you were learning. And then you have the hyena card here with fear. So yeah, I feel like for some of you, or for many of you, you may have felt fear in this past life and dealt with a lot of fear. I think, with this gift that you had, you feared people's reactions to your gift. You feared telling people the future, because with this card, I feel like some of the messages you gave people were very positive and were very uplifting, with this sun energy here. But then we have this dark energy over here, this dark clouds and sort of sadness and disappointment, and this tree that's sort of barren, it doesn't have any leaves. So I feel like you gave people, sometimes you had to give them hard messages. Sometimes you had to give them negative messages about their future, things that were going to happen that were not so great, were not so good. And so I felt like you really were afraid to tell people these negative messages, sometimes. And you felt this guilt and this shame about having to give them, bad news. So very interesting energy there. And then you have the Sacred Grove card here, and it says longevity, protection, nature, renewal. So I feel like for a lot of you here, like I said before, you were very spiritual, and you had this connection with the spirit world here. And you really lived your life through your intuition, through your higher voice. And I feel like you were very protected by spirit. You were very protected. And I feel like for, a lot of you, you lived a very long life. You lived a long lifetime. You were very, very, very long living. But I also feel like, for a lot of you, you found sanctity in nature. here with this card. I feel like maybe you went out to the forest or the garden whenever you needed to go within and really, heal, and when you needed to get in touch with spirit, and when you needed to tune into your higher voice, your higher self. You really sought this sanctity and this sanctuary in nature because you felt very connected to spirit when you were in nature. You felt very connected to the trees and the moon and the flowers and the plants. And you felt very renewed by nature. Nature really renewed your spirit, really renewed your senses. So beautiful energy there. And then you have this beloved card here, and it says radical acceptance. Yeah, so I feel like for a lot of you here in this past life, you were learning this lesson about radical acceptance. And I feel like this is radical acceptance of yourself here. I feel like you were learning to love yourself for exactly who you were, for all the gifts that you had and all of your abilities. Even though sometimes it brought fear and it brought shame and it brought, this guilty conscience. I feel like you were learning to still love yourself, for all these amazing gifts and abilities that you had. And, there's this idea of this heart being on fire here. And it's like, you were learning to be passionate about yourself, learning to accept yourself in this radical way, in this radical sense. And I really feel like you were like this phoenix, rising from the ashes here, because you were able to overcome this fear, this shame, this guilty conscience, and really love yourself. You got to the point where you said, no matter what I have to tell people, no matter what they think of my gifts, I am going to love myself. I am going to accept myself. So you were almost your own beloved here, is what I'm getting. So beautiful energy there. And then you have this card here, and it says, Eyes of the Eagle, rising above the fray. Wow. Yeah, so I feel like you guys in this past life, like I said before, you were this visionary, this prophet, and you had this higher perspective. You had this vision that no one, that other people did not have. And, we see this bullseye here around this eagle's eye. And I feel like this was you. This was your visionary. You were a visionary. You were a seer. And you saw things other people did not see. And you sort of rose above the situation. You rose above others, and you were able to see the higher perspective. You were able to see the future and see what was coming, what was going to happen. And so, there's just this idea of you being this eagle here, this seer, this prophet, and sort of rising above the fray here. So beautiful energy there. So now I'm going to just take a look at your tarot cards here to get some more information for you. So you have the Nine of Pentacles card here. Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. So I feel like for a lot of you guys, or for some of you guys, you were very successful in this past life. I feel like you were very abundant. You were very prosperous. I feel like you had all of the money you needed, all of the luxuries you needed, and you lived a very comfortable life. You lived a very abundant life. And, I feel like you were surrounded by, people that you loved. You were surrounded by nature. You were surrounded by affluence, so you seem to live a very comfortable life in this past lifetime. So beautiful energy there. And then you have the Two of Pentacles here. And the Two of Pentacles card is all about juggling, sort of juggling two things or many things. So I feel like for some of you, this juggling that you were doing, it may have been, juggling faith here, because we spoke about before about you being sort of forced into a certain faith or religion,